Tahmuras, Code of the Ancient Builder. Tahmuras Bastan, the youngest architect ever admitted to the prestigious Tehran University of Digital Urban Design at the age of 18, found himself staring at the holographic city above his desk. His dark eyes reflected the shimmering blue light, but beneath the surface they held a storm of self-doubt. He felt like the biggest fraud in the program, struggling to find his place in the world of urban design. "Come on, Tom," he muttered, running a hand through his unruly black hair. "You're supposed to be building the future here." The project brief was simple, yet daunting: design a smart city for the harsh desert environment of eastern Iran. This city could withstand climate change, while honoring the region's rich history. Tahmuras had chosen to reimagine the ancient city of Merv, once a jewel of the Silk Road, now mostly ruins. But every design he created felt soulless, just steel and glass fighting against the sand. There was no life, no connection to the past. With a frustrated growl, Tahmuras swept his hand through the hologram, scattering the digital buildings into pixels. That night, Tahmuras dreamed of a man who could have been his twin, dressed in the robes of ancient Persian royalty. "I am Tahmuras," the man said, his voice echoing with authority. "I am the builder of Merv, the binder of demons. And you, young one, have forgotten the most important rule of building." He awoke with a start before Tahmuras could ask what that rule was. The dream clung to him all day through classes and design sessions. Who was that man? And what had he forgotten? Desperate for inspiration, Tahmuras visited the Tehran Museum of Ancient Technologies. As he wandered the quiet halls, he was drawn to a small, unassuming exhibit: the cosmic technology of ancient Persia. A clay tablet covered in strange markings sat in a glass case. The plaque read, "Possible astronomical calculator, origin unknown." Some scholars believe it connected to the mythical Z of Shah Tahmuras. Tahmuras pressed his face to the glass, squinting at the markings. They weren't like any cuneiform he'd studied, but something about them seemed familiar. Without thinking, he pulled out his tablet and began sketching, his stylus flying across the screen. When a security guard tapped him on the shoulder, Tahmuras realized how long he'd been there. The museum was closing. He looked down at his tablet and gasped. He'd recreated the entire clay tablet, but his sketch had transformed the ancient markings into lines of code that seemed to pulse with life. This cosmic code, as he came to call it, was not just a random set of symbols. It was a blueprint, a language that bridged the ancient wisdom of Merv with the modern technology of his urban planning software. Back in his dorm room, Tahmuras couldn't sleep. The code beckoned to him. On a whim, he decided to run it through his urban planning software. The moment he hit execute, his room filled with a holographic sandstorm. Tahmuras yelped, instinctively shielding his eyes, before remembering it wasn't real. As the virtual sand swirled, shapes emerged: domes, arches, winding streets. A city was taking form, but not one made of glass and steel. This city grew from the desert, and its buildings were curved and organic, as if shaped by wind and time. "Impossible," Tahmuras breathed. The city in front of him was different from his previous sterile designs. This felt alive, a perfect fusion of ancient wisdom and futuristic technology. Solar panels were disguised as colorful mosaics. Water recycling systems mimicked the qanats of old Persia. And at the heart of it all stood a grand structure that could only be a modern reimagining of the Kaaba-yi-Zartosh, the ancient Zoroastrian fire temple. As Tahmuras walked through his virtual creation, he felt a presence beside him. It was the man from his dream, Shah Tahmuras. "You've remembered," the ancient king said, smiling. "The most important rule of building is not to conquer nature but to work in harmony. As I bound the demons to serve humanity, You must bind the forces of nature to serve your city." Tahmuras wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but a loud banging awakened him. He slumped over his desk, the hologram of his new city still glowing softly in the dim room. The banging came again, someone at his door. It was Professor Farzana, the head of the urban planning department. "Bastian, you missed your project presentation. I hope you have a good explanation." She stopped short, her eyes widening as she entered the holographic city, her breath catching in her throat at the sight of Merv reborn in a new form. "Is that Merv?" she whispered. Over the following hours, Tahmuras explained his creation to an increasingly amazed group of professors and fellow students. He told them about the museum exhibit, the strange code, and his vision of a city that didn't fight the desert, but embraced it. "The ancient Persians understood something we've forgotten," Tahmuras said, his voice growing more confident with each word. "They saw the world as a cosmic battle between order and chaos, and sought to create harmony between opposing forces. This city does the same. It's a bridge between past and future, nature and technology." The university was buzzing with excitement. Tahmuras's design wasn't just innovative, it was revolutionary. It offered a new way of thinking about urban planning in the age of climate change. His city, built on the principles of harmony and balance, could serve as a model for sustainable urban development. It could reduce the environmental impact of urbanization, mitigate the effects of climate change, and preserve the cultural heritage of the region. News of the project spread quickly, and soon, Tahmuras found himself fielding calls from environmental groups, tech companies, and even government officials, all eager to learn more about his vision. But with recognition came controversy. Some critics accused Tahmuras of promoting pseudoscience, arguing that his cosmic code was a hoax. Others saw his blend of ancient mysticism and modern technology threaten traditional values. Tahmuras struggled with the attention and the criticism. Late one night, feeling overwhelmed, he returned to the museum. The clay tablet sat in its case, silent and mysterious. "I don't understand," Tahmuras said to the empty room. "Why me? Why now?" "Because the world is changing, young builder," came a familiar voice. Tahmuras turned to see the spectral form of Shah Tahmuras. "The demons we face now are of our own making: pollution, climate change, the loss of connection to our past. You have been given the tools to bind these new demons, to create harmony where there is chaos." The ancient king's form began to fade. "Remember, Tahmuras. A true builder creates not just with stone and mortar, but with wisdom and foresight. Your city can be a beacon, showing the way to a future honoring the past." With those words, the spirit vanished, leaving Tahmuras alone in the quiet museum. But he no longer felt lost or overwhelmed. He understood now that he was part of something greater, a long line of builders and visionaries stretching back through history. In the months that followed, Tahmuras threw himself into refining his design. He collaborated with climate scientists, historians, and local communities to ensure his vision of New Merv was revolutionary and respectful. The project attracted international attention, symbolizing hope in the fight against climate change. As Tahmuras stood at the groundbreaking ceremony for New Merv, watching the first solar-powered excavators break the desert soil, he felt a profound connection to the earth beneath his feet, to the legacy of his namesake, and to the future he was helping to build. He thought of the ancient Tahmuras, who had supposedly taught humanity the art of spinning wool to make clothes. In a way, Tahmuras realized, he was doing the same, teaching the world to weave together past and future, nature and technology, into a fabric strong enough to withstand the challenges ahead. The desert wind whipped around him, carrying grains of sand that glittered in the sunlight. To most, it would seem a harsh and unforgiving environment. But Tahmuras saw it differently now. In each grain of sand, he saw potential. In the wind, he heard whispers of ancient wisdom. And in the city beginning to rise before him, Tahmuras saw the first pages of a new chapter in the endless story of human innovation and perseverance.